Good evening. Thank you for the invitation. It really is a pleasure being here. This actually feels a bit of a déjà vu. I was here at the Parliament some months ago, invited by the European Data Protection Supervisor to discuss some of the issues that we will be discussing here today. And recently I've spoken at another two events precisely on the same subject that we are dealing with today. In fact, I see some people in the audience who are listening to me for the third time about this, and this shows the great interest that the topic elicits. But don't worry, I got rid of all the bad jokes. You should be fine. I'll use my time in an efficient way. So I am not an expert in regulation. I am not a legislator. I am just a competition lawyer. So my view is that of a competition lawyer. I regularly advise platforms. I advise against platforms. I have the honor of having lost the appeal against the acquisition of Skype by Microsoft. I advise non-platforms that compete with platforms. I've written academic papers on this, and I was recently asked by the European Competition Law Judges Association to give them training on this subject. I have no vested interests at all in it. I think competition law is important here because much of the debate about whether we should regulate platforms stems from a frustration with the way in which competition law is applied. So there's this perception that there are shortcomings to the discipline, and that given those shortcomings, perhaps something else is needed. So to the question, is competition law sufficient? Do we need to change competition law? My answer is one that a politician could perfectly give, which is that may perhaps not be the right question to ask. So my contention is that if competition law has not done more, and it has done a lot in this area, it's perhaps because there may be perfectly valid reasons for it not to do more. And my message here, and the message I'm conveying for the third time, hopefully the repetition will add to the effectiveness, is that instead of looking to competition law to identify flaws and to criticize it, perhaps it would also be useful to look at it to try to extract some lessons. So you could be wondering, can competition law teach us anything? My wife says it's uninteresting, but sure it can teach some lessons. So first of all, competition law is, as I often like to put it, a distillation of common sense infused with mainstream economics. So you see the main provisions in competition law are just two provisions in the treaty, and despite the scarcity of regulation, it has fared pretty well. This is a discipline that has evolved over the years, and in the light of changing market realities, as applied by independent judges and independent authorities. It has not been applied against movable considerations or in the light of opinion polls. It's something that has been applied objectively in specific cases and not arbitrarily or superficially. I think that there is no other discipline that has had the same exposure to platforms or to digital platforms than competition law. If you think about it, there have been cases about self-favoring or portability. In the Google case, there are cases about excessive pricing. We talk about credit card networks. There have been cases about other pricing arrangements, like most favored nation clauses in the hotels industry. We have even factored in privacy considerations into the competition assessment, such as in the Facebook WhatsApp case. So competition law has dealt a lot with platforms. It has examined how they work in practice and against the background of factual and economic evidence. So that is why I think competition law can teach us something. So what is it that competition law can teach us? First, and on the question on whether and how to intervene, I think over the years, competition authorities and judges have learned that with great power comes great responsibility. They have become a bit more humble, and they have realized that they are only supposed to intervene when there's a compelling case and in the face of clear evidence, and in that case only act with proportional remedies. So we have come to accept over the years in competition law that competition cannot be perfect, and that is why we aim for a workable competition. And we know that if we strive for perfection, we may end up messing with complex realities, and that always tends to have unforeseen consequences. Second, on the identification of platforms. According to the European Commission's consultation, a platform is basically a business operating in a multi-sided market. That is a business that brings together different but interdependent groups of users. In competition law and over many years we have been having plenty of discussions about how to refine our tools to account for the realities and peculiarities of multi-sided markets. And in any given case, and given that most markets present some multi-sided features, the first step of the analysis is always to ask ourselves, do we have enough multi-sidedness for it to matter? With this, what I want to say is that picking multi-sidedness as an element for applying regulation to a specific category may be tremendously problematic, because this is something that, in our experience, can only be done on a case-by-case basis and in the fact of complex empirical evidence. Third, over time we have also learned to move away from the examination of business models and onto the examination of competition constraints in a given relevant market. So we do not care how a business is organized, we care about how it competes in a given market and who poses competitive constraints. We do not mind a digital platform may perfectly coexist and compete in a given market with a non-platform or with an offline platform. So establishing regulation applicable only to a subset of the players in that market may also create problems. And in fact, many of you know about this problem, because this problem of asymmetric regulation is the same one that the Commission is also rightly trying to solve when it comes to the sharing economy. Fourth, I think competition authorities, courts and lawyers, we have come also to learn how to abandon our traditional reflexes when it comes to platforms. We know that appearances of market power are often deceiving in online settings, because among others these markets are extremely dynamic, even if it is, admittedly, this is a consideration that is often exaggerated. Because services may be provided for free, even if price is certainly not the only parameter of competition to be considered, because there is differentiation, because there is multi-homing, because there is easy switching, interoperability, low barriers to entry, at least what the court told me when I lost the Microsoft Skype case. So again, this is not just theory, this is something that has been assessed and confirmed in actual cases. Fifth, size does not necessarily matter, and this is something that competition lawyers also know too well. And size may not be necessarily a bad thing. So multi-sidedness and two-sided markets are essentially about network effects. And as the economist in the room could tell you, network effects in economics are a positive externality, something that is supposed to be good. It's about demand-side efficiencies. So certainly, I'm not denying at all that some practices will also be anti-competitive in multi-sided markets. But again, this is something that we need to look at carefully on a case-by-case basis, and it is not something that can be decided in the abstract. Seventh, competition law is always there, ready to kick in case anything may go wrong. If that happens, I can recommend you go to lawyers. We have seen this before. I said it before. We've had many competition cases involving multi-sided platforms or digital platforms. No other discipline has faced digital platforms in the way that competition law has. But eighth, competition law is not the answer to every problem. This is something that we have also come to realize over the years. And expecting the contrary is what may lead to a feeling of frustration or insufficiency. Last, I think competition law is about consumer choice, much like, in my view, public policy should be in general about enabling informed choices by citizens. It is often claimed that digital platforms hold great power because they hold great amounts of information. But if information is power, I think the first thing we should do is give it to consumers. That should be the first aim of public regulation. That, and ensuring that consumers, once they are informed, they can exercise their choice by not being locked in to a given digital platform. So I'll leave here.